So I'm just loading the document which we have discussed yesterday. So in our previous class, we have discussed about the table, ordered list, unordered list. Okay, all kinds of list elements, DL, DTs. Okay. So this is the topic where we have the basic differences between cell spacing and cell padding, and cell what is the behavior of a cell spacing and what is the behavior of a cell padding, and how does it differ, and the borders of the table and different sections of the table. So now coming to the next topic, that is the forms. So in today's session we'll be going to discuss about forms and the frame sets. So form is usually the way information is gotten from a browser to a web. In our daily life, we mostly see these forms while giving a request to the server. Like we fill the form and click on the submit, and whatever the user information will be there, that will be sent to the server, and it is stored there. So whenever a user logs in for the next time, then he may see like his details are saved in the server. Okay, HTML has the tags to create a collection of objects that implement this information gathering. So whatever information about the person or anything we fill and submit is taken as considered as a collection of the objects, and that is possible, very much possible in HTML using the objects which we call them as a widgets, like radio buttons, check boxes, input boxes, etc. So when a submit button of the form is clicked, what happens here is like the form's values are sent to the server. So whatever your name, your place, like male or female, etc., based on the form data, it will be sent to the server. So all the widgets or the components of a form are defined in the content of a form tag. So whatever the elements that are there, like input tag or radio buttons, form tag, form elements, those are all combined together and put it in a form tag. So form tag has a starting and a closing tag as similar to the other tags. So the only required attribute of the form is action. So we need to specify what action it has to perform. So on click of the on performance of the action, like on click of a submit button of a form, it should be navigated to some other page or any ASP pages or something. Then we need to specify the link here. I'm just maximizing here. Now you can see. See here you can see a link like http://www.cs.ucp.edu. So this action should be performed on click of a submit button of the form. It should be this URL should take care of the form which we have submitted. So if the form has no action, the value of the action is empty string. So if you do not want to have any action, then we can just simply leave the action with the double quoted tags or anything. So now coming to the next slide. The method attribute of the form specifies one of the techniques of transferring the form data to the server. So here uh, we have two methods of what we say like transferring the data, using the get request, and another is a post request. So the method attribute of a form has some attributes like method. See, these attributes we have discussed previously, like for example for h1 tag, if we take an id, that will behave as an attribute which gives certain properties to the element h1. So in the same way, for this form, we have a method attribute which helps to define some properties of the form. So specifies one of the two possible techniques. One is a get method and another is a post method. Uh, Here we can see like there are certain widgets in a forms like input tag. So I will explain you about the forms. Um, Just hold on. Sorry for the delay. The method attribute of the form specifies one of the two possible techniques. One is a get method and one is a post method. Here the widgets are like we have a input tag here. So input tag means here we can enter the elements like name or any kind of text based on the type of the input. Input type is equal to number means we can enter the number in the text box. So if input type is equal to text, we can have the text in the input. So the type attribute of the input specifies the kind of widget being created. For example, if we given as input type is equal to text, then what happen means creates a horizontal box for the text input. So whatever that input we are going to write is in a form of a some box like rectangular box. You can enter the type, like type may be text, type may be number or anything. So default size is 20. So the input box will take the default size as 20. It can be changed with the size attribute. Size is another attribute of the input. Type is an attribute, size is an attribute. So here the size specifies like how many characters we can enter in that input tag. So if more characters are entered than will fit, the box is scrolled, that is left. I mean, like if we can give the specify the size as some 30 or anything, we can enter that many numbers. And if more characters are entered, then it will fit the, I mean, like it will fit the box and the box will get an automatic scroll. Okay. The box is scrolled, that is nothing but shifted left. So here you can see the syntax. So this is the syntax of input tag. Input type is equal to text, name is equal to phone, and size is equal to 12. So text means we can enter the text. Name is another attribute that you will understand when I write the program. Okay, name is equal to phone. For that particular input type to recognize, we will give it as we'll give the name as phone. So we can give any name respective to the text we are going to enter. And the size is 12. We can enter a 12-digit phone number, sorry, 12-digit text here. So name is nothing but phone, okay? You can have any other name according to our content. See, if you don't want to allow the user to type more characters than will fit, set the max length. So max length is another property. If we set the max length as 10, so then user will not be able to enter more than 10 characters in the particular input box. So now whatever the attributes we have discussed is like input will have a type attribute, size attribute, name and max length. Okay, coming to the check boxes, what the check boxes will help us. The check boxes in order to collect the multiple choice inputs. For example, if you have a form and if you have like 2 to 3 check boxes where you have do you like, for example, I have a question like do you like, and below it I have given a 4 check boxes like ice cream, chocolate, some any like 2 other elements. So if you like 4 elements, you can check the checkbox, and the checkbox checking will be like a tick mark inside a box. Okay, so for each checkbox, for example, I have given a checkbox with a value like chocolate. So you need to write the whatever the checkbox you have, like a square box inside it. If you click it, it will be like a tick mark. Beside it, you need to write the chocolate. So for that text, we will use the value attribute. Every check which is the widget's value in a form data when the checkbox is checked. Here, checked is nothing but an attribute. Your checkbox is checked means you have on it you will get a tick mark. Okay, checked is one attribute. Okay, a checkbox that is not checked contributes no value to the form data. So it will not consider the box which is not checked. Okay, by default no checkbox is initially checked. So by default the initially the checkbox will be like checked only. So to initiate a checkbox to checked, the checked attribute must be set to checked. So here we have a syntax like, I'll show you here. I'm just sharing my desktop and show you the syntax. Input type is equal to text, name is equal to some phone, size is equal to 10, or you can specify like if you do not want to make the user enter more than 10 characters, you can specify like max length is equal to 10, and here you can write chekd, checked is equal to checked. So checked is one of the attribute, okay. So input type is equal to text, input type is equal to text, name is equal to phone. You can give any name you wish to identify the particular type of input. Max length is equal to 10, so you will not allow the users to enter uh, more than 10 characters, and checked is equal to checked, and you can have the input tag closing like here. Like this, you can have the closing tag. In this, you can write any other text if you wish to save it. Okay. So check, when you give the attribute checked is equal to checked, by default your button will, like your box will be checked. So now coming to the example here, you have the grocery checklist. So in this grocery checklist, you have a form with action as empty. So on you don't have any action to perform. So we have just given it as an empty quotation marks. So in P tag, so you are familiar with the P tag, okay? In P tag, we have given an input type is equal to checkbox. So here type is not a text. Here type is checkbox. Name is equal to groceries. Value is equal to milk. So beside the checkbox in the down, if you can see here, this is your box. This is your checkbox. Default you have given it as checked is equal to checked. So that is the reason it is checked by default, and value is equal to milk. So whatever the value you have given, right, milk. So here you can see the milk value. Sorry, here you can see the capital milk, MILK. Okay, this value will help out to carry the validations further. For example, for dynamic things in JavaScript, you will take this value document.get element by ID or value kind of thing. This will be like value is equal to milk will be helpful for the dynamics to handle the dynamic things that we will discuss in the coming further chapters. So in the input you have given as milk. So you can see here as milk. So similar way bread and eggs. So you can now close the form. So this is the syntax. Okay. Now coming to the radio buttons. So radio buttons, like you cannot have a multiple radio buttons. Multiple checkboxes are possible, but you can have a radio button. So generally male and female validations kind of thing in forms, we generally use the radio buttons here, either to select any one. Okay. Every button in a radio button group must have the same name. So this is the important thing that you have to remember. So every button here you can see like we have a names like groceries and groceries. So these three things come under the same category groceries. Okay. In a similar way for radio buttons also, you can see in the next slide. See, age category. Now we are considering another thing with same action as empty. Coming to here, type input type is equal to radio. So radio means you will get a round kind of thing. round kind of a structure in which when you click on it, you can see a dot inside a round table, sorry, box. So name is equal to age. So here you can select the names. These are all ages, right? 20, to 35. These are all single category. So you should give the same name. For radio buttons, it is mandatory to have a same name. So same kind of category. For example, if you take gender either male or female. So ages also you cannot have multiple ages. You can have only single age. So for that purpose, we generally use a radio buttons with the same name. If no radio button in a radio if no button in a radio button group is pressed, the browser often presses the first one. Okay, if you do not specify anything, the browser defaultly takes it as a first, like 36 to 50, over 50, etc. You can have a based on the category, like it may be gender or it may be age. See, here is the output 0 to 90, 80 to 35. You can button as checked. Okay. Now coming to the select tags. So in forms, now you are done with the input type is equal to type with checkbox. Now coming to the select tags. In the similar way, in inputs we have numbers. According to the HTML5 tags, we have more upcoming types. We can have a text, number, email validation. Type is equal to email means it automatically validates whether the email is valid or not. We have upcoming features in HTML5. So some new tags are coming up. So when considering this select tags help us. There are two kinds of menus: those that behave like checkbox and those that behave like radio buttons. Okay. The menus that behave like checkboxes are specified by including the multiple attribute, which must be set to multiple. Multiple is equal to multiple means the menus, then it will behave like the checkboxes are specified by including the multiple attribute. The name attribute of select is required, and the size attribute of select can be included to specify the number of menu items to be displayed. So I will just show you an example, then you can get a clear idea. This is the example where we can write name is equal to groceries. So whatever the type, they need to mention the type, like. So here the type comes with the name attribute. Select name is equal to groceries. Option tags. Within the options we can have milk, bread, eggs. So here the output will be like C. Here you can, when you click on the drop down is possible with the help of the select tag. Okay, when you click on it, you can select milk, bread, egg, cheese, kind of things. This is the output. We are just getting back to the previous slide here. So name you have seen, size you have seen. Size is not mandatory. You can give accordingly. And the size attribute of the select can be included to specify the number of the menu items to be displayed. So how many menu items you want to display, you can set it using the size. So if you give it as 1, then it will display only one menu item down list. If the size is set to greater than 1, or if multiple is specified, the menu is displayed as a pop-up menu. So here you can see the example. Menu. Yeah, here let us go to the option tag and continue with the example. Each item of menu is specified with an option tag. So within the option tag, we write whatever list of items you want to show in a drop down. Okay. Whose view text content is a value of the item. An option tag can include the selected attribute, which when assigned selected, specified that the item is pre-selected. Okay. In a drop down, if you want to show this bread as a default item to be shown as a drop in the drop down, then you, for the option, you will give it as selected attribute. Okay, I'll show you here. Forms, here you, when the size is 1, we will show only milk. Here after clicking the menu, you can see like milk is default thing you can see in a drop down. This set to 2 means milk and bread you can see here. So if you give the option like bread is selected thing, then you in the drop down instead of milk you can see the bread. I'll just share you an example for the select tag. Give me 2 minutes. So whatever the select input tags, these are all a part of the form elements. You can have different form elements, okay? I will show it in your notepad. Just sharing my screen. Yeah. You can either specify as a required means it is mandatory to have this field. First, let us go to the simple select tag and then we can go by stepwise. So here, option, we will have an attribute called as value. Here I have given as empty value and none. So option value is equal to Volvo. Here the option we have as a Volvo. So in dynamic JavaScript, we can retrieve the value of a particular option by using this value. We can run a script in which we can use this value and get the value of the option, like second option, third option, kind of things that we can see dynamically in the JavaScript sessions. So this is one of the example where you can see the select tag. Now coming to the forms part. You have another form element called as text area created with text area tag. Okay, you have a text area means it gives some space to enter some n number of lines in a box, text box. Okay, usually include the rows and call attributes to set the size of the text area. So the text area, we have two attributes here. For input, we have attributes like type, size, max length. In the similar way, for the text area, we have the rows and columns as the attribute. So the default text can be included as the content of the text area. Scrolling is possible in the text area. Here, when you scroll it, this zoom. This is the example we have. Form action, here we are not specifying any action. Text area, we have a name. For text area, we can assign some name like aspiration 23 and cause is equal to 40. Mean we can enter 3 rows kind of text and 40 columns. We will get a default space like this. So if the content is more, you can automatically get the scroll where you can scroll the text in the text area. These are generally included in the form like in most of the forms, if you want to fill the comments or any feedback, you often see this tag. Okay. Now coming to the next part, reset and submit buttons in the forms. So both are created with the input tag. So input type is equal to reset, value is equal to reset form. Value means you can give any value. So this value can be used dynamically in later parts like JavaScript. So type is equal to reset means whenever you have filled a form, you just want to empty all the elements like input elements, radio buttons, checkboxes. So next coming to the type is equal to submit. So type is equal to submit means for example if you have taken a button tag, there is a possibility like we can have a button tag also. Otherwise instead of a button, for the button you can assign the action like on click of button what should happen. Similar way we have input type is equal to submit. On click of this submit some action should be performed. Okay. On click is another that I will discuss in next sessions. So if you give as a type is equal to submit, then You can have a different features, like you can navigate it to the different pages. Okay, on submit some action should be performed. Okay, on submit what kind of action should be performed, you can specify in the action tag here. Okay, form action is equal to action. Or else if you don't specify the any URL in the action, and if you simply click on the submit, when it should be navigated to some other function, you write it as on click is equal to that function name. So on click of submit, it will go to the particular function and execute the lines of code in the function. Otherwise on submit, you can either take it as an action also. Okay. Submit has two actions: encode the data of the form, request that the server execute the server resident program specified as the value of the action attribute of the form. So submit has two actions. One action which I discussed it, like on click of any on click is equal to some function name. On submitting, it will go to the particular function and execute the lines of code there, or else it will request the server, like in action whatever the URL you specified, maybe .asp or something with extensions, that action will go to the, this form content object will go to the particular link in the action. Submit button is required in every form. So every form you should have a submit button in order to send your form data. Just reloading the document, I think. I'll just reload the document, then you will be able to see. So in forms, we can have a different attributes like input type, name, max length, select tags, radio buttons. Okay. In tomorrow's session, the examples that I'm going to show you are like how a form will execute. Okay, form, frame set, and input tags. All these three things we will cover in tomorrow's session. Like going through like what happens when you click on an action tag. I mean like when you specify action tag like on submit, and different types of frames, like when you give the percentages to the frames. Okay, I'm just telling the theoretical session today. So tomorrow will be a complete hands-on session where you can observe the outputs of all the topics, like whatever you have seen before, like tables or frames, forms, and the ordered list, unordered list all together. I will give you an examples. So now just let us move to the frames topic. So frames are the rectangular sections of a display window, each of which can display a different document. So here the frames, as you've seen before, you can have a different rectangular sections. So each section you can specify the how much width it has to display. So because the frames are no longer part of XHTML, you cannot validate a document that includes frames. So frames are no longer a part of XHTML. XHTML is not carrying the frames thing, and so you cannot validate a document. So the frame set tag specifies the number of frames and their layout in the window. So the frame set, that basic tag is like a frame set and it should be written in a body tag. And the frame set must have either a rows attribute or a column attribute or both. Usually the case, we have generally rows as well as columns. Okay. Default is 1. You can see like you can have the things. The possible value of rows and columns are numbers, percentages, and asterisks. Asterisk is nothing but which I have shown, like for example, if you have a row which is like 30% asterisk, so whole page will be like 100%. 30% and 30% altogether is 60%. So the remaining portion like 40% you can consider this as asterisk. So remaining thing will be carried out using the asterisk. A number value specifies a row height in a pixels. Okay. A percentage specifies the percentage of the total window height of the row, and it is very useful to specify. This thing I'll show you the example again. See here, a frame set. You have started your frame set tag using a frame set. Rows is equal to 150, 200, 300. You can have a rows like pixels format or percentages format. 25%, 50% and 25%. So you can have a 3 rows. First row is 25%, second row is 50% and third row is 25%. So again 50%, 20% asterisk. See, always remember like your page will be like 100%. 50 is your first element, second is 20. So now total is 70. Remaining is 30. So asterisk is nothing but a 30%. In the similar way, you can have a rows and columns. The frame tag specifies the content of the frame. So frame tags helps us to understand like what is the content of the frame you have. And the first frame in a frame set specifies the content of the first frame. So in a frame set tag, if you consider the first frame, it specifies whatever the content you have in your first frame. So frame content, a row major order is used. I'll show you an example. You can understand a better way. And a frame content is specified with the SRC attribute. So whatever the content you can have in a frame, like we considered before, SRC is equal to some HTTP Jntuk link or any other link, then you can get in the source attribute. You can have the link. Without SRC attribute, the frame will be empty. Such a frame cannot be filled later. So you should specify some source, otherwise it will be like empty frame. So if the frame set has fewer frame tags than frames, the extra frames are empty. So I'll just show you the thing in the coming slides. See here. So did you remember these are nothing but the comment tags where you can have the content within it will not be displayed in your HTML portion, but this is just for reference. Okay. The contents of the first frame of frames.html, which is the table of the content for the second frame. See, you can see the doc type. Doc type it is not there. You can add the doc type. Name attribute XML namespace. You have a heading. In the heading, you have a title, table of contents frame. So this is a fruits. So here in the unordered list, you have a list element, and anchor you specified the link as a apples.html, and target will be like descriptions, and here all the targets is the same, but the hrefs attributes are changing. Show the output. I'll just continue for the next 3 minutes and I will end up the session. So tomorrow I will come up with all the examples in a better way. You can understand it and get back to me if you have any doubts. So let us discuss the last slide as we are running out of the time. Nested frames to divide the screen in more interesting ways. As you have a nested tables, you can have a nested frames as well. Syntactic differences between the HTML and XHTML. So with these differences, we can just close off the XHTML PowerPoint presentation. So these are the major differences between the XHTML and HTML. As we discussed before, XHTML is more strict. It should have a closing tags, case sensitivity. Whatever the things you are writing, those are all case sensitive. It should have a quoted attributes. For example, h1 id is equal to something. So that id is equal to something should be within a quoted at braces. Quoted things. Otherwise, it will consider it as an error. So explicit attribute values. So whatever attributes you are giving, you should specify them very specifically. And ID and name attributes. For every element, you can have an ID attribute as well as name attribute, as you have seen in most of the tags like input tags and all. And element nesting. So when you are doing a nesting of the elements, like div element should be a span element or inline element should always be within a element, but the block elements cannot be nested within a inline elements. So this is important point you have to remember. So when you consider the block and inline elements, inline should always be within a block, but not the vice versa. Okay, these are the syntactic differences of the HTML and XHTML. I have just allowed you to, I have just specified the button allow for you to download this particular PPT. So tomorrow you can just go the entire PPT, and if you have any doubts, come to me. So till tables, I have done the hands-on. I have showed you with an so from the frame, from the tables topic like UL, LI, frames, forms. We will take these examples tomorrow in a next session, and I'll show you and explain you the importance of like submit, action, input tags, and etc. All the kinds of tags we can take it. So to the next question, I have given the list of 5. Have to select of 2. Oh, I didn't get the question actually from Jntuk Vijayanagaram campus. Yeah, and coming to the next question, what is the difference between the value we give and word we write outside the tag in a checkbox? Okay, see, in a checkbox value, if you write it as some fruit name, okay, some fruit, and outside the checkbox you have written it like apple, okay. Using value in JavaScript, what you will do is for that checkbox you can dynamically change the whatever the text you have. For example, you have written as apple, right? Using the JavaScript with the help of the value, like you will write document dot get the value name. You can get the value name and change the text content of the particular checkbox. So for dynamic actions, in order to recognize the checkbox, want to perform certain operations for the checkbox, you can use this value property. So with the help of this value property, you can have the things that can be made dynamically. With the help of a example, I will show you clearly in a next session. That is the basic difference between the value and the content you write for the particular checkbox. So is there any error notification in HTML like editor? See, if you get any errors in a HTML, you do one thing. Whatever the HTML you write and save it with the .html file, when you open it in a browser, just press the F12 button in your keyboard. Then a debug mode, you can see a debug mode. Okay, coming to you here. For example, if you have taken the thing like, just hold on, JNPU, some or something. See, this is your HTML page. For example, if you want to check the errors or debugs where your page got, right click on a page, click the inspect element. You can see the debug mode here. So here you can see your element style. If you want to see the HTML what you have written, and below there is a option called console. Here you can see like the set of errors that are generated can be seen using this console. Using this debug mode, you can just click on this element, Control Shift C, or select an element in the page. So click on it and just on a page. So it specifies like this is your div, which is nothing but a header. Okay, this is a kind of debugging you will do in a HTML. So in console you can see the errors. Just going to a next question. How the checkboxes can be controlled. Actually, I didn't. Can you specify clearly how the checkboxes can be controlled? Means basically, if you write it as checked is equal to checked, it will get the default checked attribute. Or if you want to dynamic the checkbox attributes like you want to make it as checked or unchecked, you can do it in JavaScript. Anything is possible. Whatever the static things, whatever the static things you can mention, you can make it as dynamic using a JavaScript. So whatever the questions you have, just mention them clearly with a more text so that I can. So I'm just checking. Okay, I think you have another session starting right now. So I'll do one thing. I'll have all the question. So I have gone through all the questions. For each question, I will show you with an example tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, you can pose the questions here. I'll get back to you as we don't have any time. Okay, today. Okay.